I think B2B has been so far behind. Like, I'm fortunate that I'm in that space because all the B2B companies are coming to me like, hey, how do we make, Salesforce is a big partner of mine. How do we make CRM cool? And I'm like, good luck. But like, let's see what we can do. And I think that's, marketers are realizing product marketing language, no one gives a shit. Like, no one cares about your scalable AI system that changes outcomes and, gives ROI. Like, none of that means anything.
No.
Right? So I think there's a huge element of luck that I just found myself in this position where my audience is educated, they're decision makers, they're buyers, they have disposable income, and it just happened to be what I knew. So, looking forward, it's like, how do I just get broader? How do I find more areas of expertise that gives me a wider net to cast on brands?
Welcome to the Product Tea with Leah. I am your host, Leah Dorin, and we are about to spill the tea with the best from tech about product growth and senior leadership topics. Top of the morning, welcome to the show. Today's guest is a legend in the world of B2B sales comedy, where demo fails are punchlines and QBRs count as foreplay. And now we're going to go into the Hollywood part, the trailer thing. In a world where circle back haunts your nightmares, CRMs auto-populate your regrets, and every sales rep swears this deal is in the bag, one man dared to laugh. It's the corporate bro, the minor league pitcher who threw curveballs in enterprise deals, which both got crushed, and then pivoted to roasting sales cliches like a pro. He's the master of turning let's socialize this internally into comedy gold, surviving QBRs so awkward they make a Zoom silo sweat, proving free swag is the only currency that closes deals, and writing LinkedIn posts so relatable, even Gary the sales guy DMs him for advice. They called him fifth funniest in his family, behind a blind parakeet and a stuffed animal. The guy who made sadness sound less depressing. The only reason salespeople admit they also hate cold calling. Witness, the man who turned wine-length humor into a cult following, survived Stanford GSB without losing his soul, and still believes pivot isn't just a buzzword. It is a survival skill. Welcome to the podcast, Ross Pomerantz, everyone.
I am moved emotionally. I am affected in the place where my heart used to be. I feel some sort of buzzing. I don't know what that is. I don't know if you've brought me back to life. Wow is all I can say.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to have you here. 3 minutes ago, you doubted me whether this intro is going to be anything good, but now we have arrived.
Yeah, that was a comedy script in and of itself. Especially the part about my curveballs getting absolutely crushed, because that is true.
Okay, well, I'm sorry for that, but that's just how it is. Ross, can you introduce yourself to the audience in case I have forgotten anything, or that was a complete description of your personality?
I think that was a complete description. Ross Pomerantz, most people call me Corp. People always ask me, what do I do? And there's no way to say it without sounding like a douchebag. I'm a content creator. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a keynote speaker. I run a small investment group. I do a bunch of shit. I do what I want to do, and it's great. And so it's hard to, I would say a content creator is the heartbeat of what I do. Everything comes out of the content.
When was the first time you called yourself influencer?
I didn't use that word just now.
Oh, me neither. All right. It's fucking cringy, but we kind of are.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's true. And that's one of the things that, brands look at, right? When they want to partner with you, there's a lot of content creators out there. They make memes, they make little videos that have nothing to do with themselves, but do they have any influence? Not necessarily. So brands want to pay for influencers. It's just a really shitty word, and I hate it.
Okay, well, that is true. We're going to talk about it, but before we dive into the topic, what do people get wrong about you once they get to know you?
That Ross and corporate bro are not the same. They are different. I think that's one of the things that people realize after they meet me. That, the corporate sales bro is definitely a part of my life, but there's more to it than that. That's the caricature, if you will.
What do you think is the main difference between the two characters?
I think corporate bro is a little bit more outrageous and outlandish and would do things and does things that Ross would never do in a professional setting in front of people.
Wait, okay, so this is your vessel to be inappropriate? I'm not saying that corporate bro is inappropriate, but he totally is. Okay, you just kind of preface that.
Yeah, well, corporate bro makes a lot of career-limiting decisions, a lot of career-limiting moves. And I think corporate bro says what everyone's thinking, whereas Ross would probably keep it a little bit more to himself. And it was a nice vessel to be like, oh, that pissed you off? Well, that was the character. That wasn't me. So I can always defer accountability to the character instead of myself.
So to me, this is kind of interesting because I make sales memes as well, but like I'm not impersonating the meme per se, right? Like I make fun about it. Like I call it like Gary the sales guy and so forth, because I noticed that if you make fun about marketing people, they just fucking hate you afterwards.
They sob, they cry under their pillows.
But yeah, it really is true. So salespeople can actually laugh about themselves. This is what I love about this industry so much. But so do you sometimes get like the feeling of like being a little bit of a circus monkey in a way? Because I do make a lot of jokes online and, memes, which are usually like a criticism of something that is quite real.
Yeah.
But then when you are in a conference, it's almost like there was a little bit of a phase where it was more like, now dads, I get it if you are getting booked on stage and you have to kind of do something, but
yeah. Well, people expect something from you when they see you or meet you. And I try to deliver that. I mean, there's obviously like go out and dance clown, but I don't think about it like that. For me, it's my job, it's my profession. And if I'm going to go out and, people are going to pay me to do something, I'm going to go, that's my profession. So go be a professional and go dance. But I do enjoy it. I do think that, when people see me on the streets or something and they're like, Cord, what's up? That they're expecting me to, rip out some joke. And so a lot of times I'll be like, what's up, dude? I'm kidding, like, what's up? Nice to meet you. So I try to have big energy when I meet people on the street, but it took me a while to get to a point where I was like, that's what I need to do. I need to show up when people see me.
But does this not scare you? Like, I was recognized once on the street. I mean, somewhere here in the kind of like, not my hometown, and it was not my mom, just like to preface this, okay, because she knows me. But I'm just like, I was actually recognized by someone that was listening to my podcast. And this was the first time where I got a little bit scared. Like, does this never enter your thought where you're like,
of course.
Shit, like we're not A-list celebrities, like we're not John Cena level, but like you're definitely bigger than me, but just never like, did you never think about like this parasocial stuff?
Well, it's interesting. Like, my biggest platform is Instagram, and I'm about 750,000 people follow me on there. And there's a bunch more who know who I am. And I'm kind of at the point where if I'm going out anywhere in San Francisco or any tech hub, Austin, Atlanta, New York, Boston, like if I choose to go to certain areas, I need to be mentally prepared that someone's going to stop me and say something. And so, there are times when I sit in a restaurant, it's like, I'm not in the mood. So I'll sit with my back to the door. But like at the same time, I'm not Brad Pitt. I don't need an entourage to protect me. Anybody who says something, I've never had a bad interaction.
Oh, never? Like not a single one?
I mean, bad could be like, stop talking. Like I need to go. But I've gotten good at shutting down the conversation and being like, hey, well, I really appreciate you saying hi, I got to run. But, sales are dope. And people are always super cool about it. It's humbling because people care. It means they care about the stuff that I've done or made.
It is really heartbreaking. I think for me, it was a bit like when you're in a conference where everybody kind of knows you. Because in there, it's like concentrated, right? Like it's not just like, oh, there's a city and like one out of, 1,000 people knows you and so forth. But like if you're in a conference and you're like, I don't know, you're giving a speech and so forth, and they also know your material. The moment you get off the stage, you have like this line of people who wants to talk to you.
Yep.
And for them, you're like a 5-minute happening right now, right? Like it's happening, right? Like it needs to kind of happen. And I find that quite intimidating and quite scary. I cannot imagine what you have to deal with, but
I now have people that will come with me that are sort of the bad cop if I need them to be like, hey, he's got to go. And I'm like, I don't want to go. And then they'll be like, you got to go. And so it kind of breaks that for me, even though I do need to go. I think for me, I just think every interaction like that is a chance to turn a fan into a super fan or a hyper loyalist or someone who, you're probably never going to see them again. And you want them to be able to say, I met him in person and he was really fucking cool. He was actually like cool, and that's what I want. And it's all about brand building, right? You're always thinking about what's the next piece of my personal brand and how do I want to leave people feeling? And whether it's the content or in person, to me, it's just an opportunity to, capture that.
Okay, let's go into that particular topic because you mentioned it and I'm always getting triggered like a Manchurian candidate when someone says brand. So we're not talking about Russell Brand. We're talking about the thing that people are recognizing when they hear your name or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So when did you start this entire thing as a means to like, hey, this could be a business that is actually running and is feeding me?
No, I started this in 2013 when I was in sales at Oracle. And like growing up, I was just the guy who made home videos. No one ever pushed me towards film school. No one ever said, go be a creative. I was a baseball player. So I was like, if I'm not a major league baseball player, I'll be successful in business because that's what my mom did. And I was like, what does that even mean? And so like every other athlete who washes out of their sports and has no hard skills because they didn't study that hard in college, they end up in sales. And so it was just a ridiculous place. Oracle, I got a business development job and I was like, I don't even know what Oracle does. I'm not even totally sure what business development is, but I'm down to go develop some business. Turned out that was cold calling. It was, an SDR role effectively. Mm-hmm. And I was in this building at Oracle HQ here in Redwood Shores, south of San Francisco, with 4,000 salespeople in a building. And I was like, this place is fucking ridiculous. Like, what are we doing here? We're 20 years old. We're, selling into Fortune 100 CEOs, CIOs, CTOs. We don't know what the fuck we're talking about. Why did no one tell me about this? And so I just started making Vine videos, the 6-second videos back in the day, sort of documenting the ridiculous stuff that happened. And it was catharsis for me because sales sucked. And it was the only way for me to survive is to make fun of something. And that's just how it went. It turned out it was much bigger than just my team at Oracle that felt the same.
This is funny to me because I think specifically B2B sales, because it does not exist in B2C. I mean, maybe we're going to end up in a future where someone is actually selling you a McDonald's Happy Meal, like with a salesperson. I don't know.
It's going to be an AI bot selling us. It's going to be an AI agent selling me a Happy Meal.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing, right? I mean, that's not what I mean. But
no.
I think so. Anyways, so you grew up in the sales, in the sales environment that was really harsh. And I mean this without a joke, right? This is actually quite harsh.
Yep.
I worked at the time, I think, at Microsoft, which was also at that time, it doesn't get more B2B. It just,
right.
you have even class separation between the FTE employees and the vendors. So we had different badges, I got an orange one because I was one of the lower class because they didn't have budget for me as an FTE. But it was a horrible time, especially for salespeople, right? You had to call people and, I don't know whether they shouted at you already, but they probably did. But 5% maybe are not hanging up on you. And then you need to convince those to kind of get through. This never changed, right?
Yeah. I mean, my very first cold call was with my manager on the call. He was like, this was back before even wireless headsets. So it was a splitter. It was a cord that plugged into the phone. And then we each had a headset. And the first guy I called told me to blow him. And I knew he was going to be like that. I looked at him on LinkedIn. I looked at his face and I judged him immediately. I was like, this guy's going to be a fucking asshole. And he was. And my manager's like, they're not all going to go like that, but a lot of them will. And I was like, I'm going to get some more coffee and do it again.
So it is funny how all these stereotypes were true, but the job itself is hard as nails.
It's mentally hard. It's not intellectually that hard. It's just mentally hard.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's like showing up to the gym, right? You have to do it even if you don't want to do it. And then you have all these shitty goals that are extremely performance. So I remember also when I was working in a sales department as a product manager, that's the worst combination that you can have because you're not owning anything. And the sales guy, the CRO, is managing you like a salesperson. So what do? They come in every morning and ask for numbers. And I'm just like, yo, we're not shipping anything in the next 2 weeks.
And we're like, hey, I've got a new product feature I want you to build because my one customer asked for it. So can you go ahead and build that, please?
No, that's very true. But if we think about this right now, so you're running your own business right now, right? You can, is it allowed to say that you're making money with this entire thing, right? So you're profiting off from your brand, of course. I also do that. I think I'm doing it a little bit different in the sense of okay, I'm trying to get an actual job, where you are really you went full in on the content creation. I don't know where you make most of your money, if you can disclose this, but I think it's really doing gigs also, and then co-sponsorships, right? That's your main source of income.
Yeah, I would say gigs, in-person stuff is about 15% of total revenue. I would say 70% is brand partnerships on socials, things I post on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and LinkedIn.
So this is interesting, right? So you started out as someone that understands B2B sales from an outbound motion. So you're calling up people and you hope that one of them is kind of giving you at least some attention so you can satisfy the arbitrary goals that someone else has given you.
Yes.
And now you are trying to build a lot of inbound traffic for yourself by creating content and making fun of the entirety of the industry, I would say, which a lot of salespeople are laughing about. So you started this quite early. So before we even had this wave of inbound through, personal faces and the word that we're not saying, the I word, the influencers, right? And we started to see this, at least in my mind, we also see this usually play out more in B2C. So in the consumer segments, fitness influencers, that kind of stuff. And then B2B kind of starts to catch on to it, right? So you're clearly running a business in an upper market segment.
Yep.
So whether a conference knows your face or not, and you've never heard about them, and then they book you and so forth. And now the space is also getting crowded.
Right.
How do you think about this going forward, if you think about it from the perspective of a business that needs to create inbound to sell anything, like whether this is yourself or like a co-partnership with someone else right now, you're sitting on a big brand right now. So like, what is changing right now?
So I guess the beginning, I would say it's niching down, right? And so it started as purely sales content. And then it kind of grew into, okay, I'll make fun of VCs, I'll make fun of private equity, I'll make fun of marketers, I'll like slowly make fun of tech as a whole. And then I'll get to even more just like small moments in the office. If you work in an office or you work a job, then how do we get more and more broad to become more mass appeal? The reality is by 2027, creator brand partnership spending is going to hit $500 billion. So, I'm not like the biggest Gary Vee guy, but Gary Vee basically says, I just read his book, like the only spot on TV worth spending money on anymore is the Super Bowl. Everything else is pretty much worthless. And so where are all these brands going? Well, they're going to influencers. They're niche influencers who hit certain groups of people that they know, audiences they know they can command. And I think B2B has been so far behind. Like, I'm fortunate that I'm in that space because all the B2B companies are coming to me like, hey, Salesforce is a big partner of mine. How do we make CRM cool? And I'm like, good luck. But like, let's see what we can do. And I think marketers are realizing product marketing language, no one gives a shit. Like, no one cares about your scalable AI system that changes outcomes and, gives ROI. Like, none of that means anything.
No.
Right. So I think there's a huge element of luck that I just found myself in this position where my audience is educated, they're decision makers, they're buyers, they have disposable income, and it just happened to be what I knew. So, looking forward, it's like, how do I just get broader? How do I find more areas of expertise that gives me a wider net to cast on brands?
So I'm making a weird face for those that are just not watching this as a video right now. So what I'm trying to think is I tried to disagree with you on something right now. So on 2 points, because I think I have a hot take that I did not see a lot of people talk about. And I would like to kind of hear your point on this, like whether you agree with this or not.
I want it. Give me that spice.
So I actually do think that for 2 reasons, the influencer business, as we know it right now, in terms of, where you spend your marketing dollars and what you're getting on it, as an external face. So for instance, me hiring you to do something for me because people trust you and then therefore they trust you what you're selling or like what you're advertising is going to shrink considerably. I actually do think so. And I actually do think that it's going to happen quite fast for 2 reasons. The first one, I don't think that's going to be a huge effect. It's going to take more time to materialize, but I actually do think that it's going to matter is because of AI generated content that is just making everything a little bit shittier. Everyone a little bit funnier, but not really funny, right? But you know what I mean, right? So it's going to be harder to kind of push through the noise. I'm just going to pause here for a second, but I think you don't fundamentally disagree with this, right? So we're going to go into a crazy fucking world around this, right?
No. The AI thing is a whole other piece, but I don't disagree.
Okay. So the second thing that I think is going to happen, and this is purely like me having an emotional feeling about it, is that if you look what happened in the last 4 to 5 years on YouTube, where every thumbnail started to look like a Mr. Beast thumbnail, like with the, faces and
high emotion.
Exactly. Everybody copies everyone the same. But sure, it kind of works. So everybody starts to copy and so forth. What also happened is that all of these influencers started to notice that they can monetize their reach. This also happened for me. From when I had 10,000 followers, marketers started to kind of reach out, 20,000 more marketers came, 30,000 and so forth.
Right.
The issue is that I do think fundamentally that when you advertise something inside of content, then you are incentivized because someone is giving you money to also advertise stuff that you don't truly believe in, that is not that awesome, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, fair enough. And I'm not saying like malicious stuff. I'm not saying that you're scamming people. It's just like, oh, Athletic Greens is giving me 200,000. I've never used Athletic Greens.
Right.
I can pretend that shit. I do think that the same is going to happen as did with every other channel that was new and then exciting at the beginning. The click-through rates, if you want to call it that, are going to get less and less and less and less because people get burnt more and more and more and more about it.
Yes, I agree.
It's just weird. It's like we have come to accept in some ways that you pay for a YouTube Pro subscription to not see any advertisements. And then you have people like me and you who have sponsors in their videos. It's like, I don't know whether you do it, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I do. And I think that's true. And there's people I know in my sphere that will say yes to every brand deal that comes in. And they're like, I want to get as much money as I can now because who knows how long this is going to last. And for me, I probably turned down about 40% of brand deals because I'm like, I don't like this product. This is stupid. Like, how can I even make this this is dumb. Like, I go back and forth. I'm like, does my audience even care? Like, most of the time, I mean, they don't know. They don't know the brand deals that I'm turning down because I don't believe in them and I think the product's shitty and this and that. I like to believe those choices I make. And when I do advertise, especially on LinkedIn in particular, that it's a true partnership. Like Salesforce, everybody knows that I work with Salesforce every year. That's like one that just kind of sort of now ingrained in the ethos of my character. I spent years making fun of Salesforce and now I'm working with them and there's kind of this whole...
Oh my God, we have so much in common. Okay, here's a question.
Yeah.
This is it's a completely side topic. If I get Mark Benioff on the podcast, are you going to join? Because I'm making so much fun about Salesforce all the time. I'm pretty sure I am the last person.
Yeah, I would happily join. I've been trying to get to Mark for a long time. And I work with pretty much most people one level below him. And they're like, we're never going to bring you to him. And I'm like,
maybe we should. Yeah, we should do that.
One other thing that's interesting though about what you said is like Salesforce pays Matthew McConaughey $10 million a year. And everybody knows Matthew McConaughey's never updated Salesforce in his life. He doesn't even know what Agentforce is. He doesn't know what that is. Like, it's like, at least with Salesforce, they, the people who see me do it, they're like, yeah, he knows what Salesforce is. Dude had to update Salesforce every fucking day because his manager yelled at him if he didn't.
Yeah, okay. So just really quickly. So first of all, to your prior point, I'm not trying to paint you as a bad guy or whatever. Like, that's not what I mean. But I mean, so my point is that for marketers that have budget to spend, it will get harder and harder to find stuff that actually converts. Because, like if you're not selling anything based on this, especially for B2B SaaS, this is going to get harder. And I do think that this is going to be almost impossible to start new, because I feel like if you haven't started by now with brand building the way that we did in terms of like, focusing on one channel and then, kind of like get some buzz, it's incredibly hard to now copy this. Like 2 years ago, I would have said unequivocally, like if you're a CEO of a brand and you feel like you want to write about some stuff that is insightful for your ICPs, do it. Now, I'm not so sure anymore because of how LinkedIn is changing, again, AI and so forth. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the AI thing is definitely huge. I think there's still opportunity on LinkedIn. I like to believe that the choices I'm making, it goes back to the influence thing, right? Like, are you truly an influencer and able to influence people's purchasing decisions? Like, do people care about your opinion on what's the best tech stack right now? In your opinion, what's the best dialer? What's the best revenue intelligence platform, stuff like that. But I do agree, click rates are coming down. I think it's harder and still hard to measure impact of social stuff, especially in B2B. It's not like somebody watches one corporate bro video and then goes and buys $2 million of Salesforce licenses. There's just no way that works like that. But I do think the repetition and brand affinity and brand emotion can change as a result of working with influencers over time. Like, it's the brand perception.
I am super careful about this stuff. I'm telling you, like, I'm extremely paranoid about me associating myself with the wrong brands.
Yeah.
I've just signed one sponsorship deal that I think I'm going to do because I love the product. But even there, like, I'm kind of like, the higher the number is, the more likely I actually like it and so forth. But I just think it's like a misalignment on incentives. I'm not knocking the industry. I'm not new to marketing. I kind of get it. I'm just saying that, what if it's not this classical model? What is it going to be in the future? And we don't know yet. Is it offline mailing again? Like when we actually went door to door, salespeople. Hello, this is Ross. I would like to sell you a vacuum, please.
Right. Well, I mean, I still think people are going to reject, assuming we're able to identify AI influencers, people are going to reject them pretty quickly. It's like, why would I trust a computer program that's been like told what to do? And I'm oversimplifying it, but I do think that's an issue.
Do you really think that? Come on, you sweet summer child. Come on.
I do think that, unless we're talking about OnlyFans, like the AI OnlyFans, like that is.
Wait, I have a question, Ross.
Do I have one? Yes, it's feet pics.
Oh, no,
I don't have one. Have I thought about it? Yes.
Is there an OnlyFans for B2B? Because
it could. All I'm saying is I will invest in that. All I'm saying. See your favorite tech executive's feet. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying.
This is getting so dark. Oh my God. Like, I'm actually, my brain is now going there. It's like, okay, hey, here's an enterprise offering for OnlyFans. I don't know how that looks, but okay.
Put your executives on the map with this AI generated, OnlyFans version of them in a boardroom. I'm just saying. The TAM on weirdos is very large.
Yeah, that's true. That is okay.
I'm just saying, very large.
The weirdo TAM. Okay, so let me just ask you a very practical question, because I also try to pretend that we give actionable tips in this particular podcast. So, like, Can you give us a little bit of an insight on like how you run your business in the sense of, here are some non-negotiables, like, I'm posting once a day on this and that and so forth. You probably also have some help. Like, what are some of the key stakes? Like, what are the non-negotiables that you think you should do if you're doing something similar as this, as a B2B brand, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely the minority in this, but I'm a less is more person. For me, it's where I started for years was once a week. I just wanted to post one video a week, but my videos took longer to make back then. And I wanted to make sketches and skits. And now we're in the TikTokification of the world where everything is a video meme instead of a skit. It's like music over some text on a screen and it's a 10 to 15 second video. Those you can make a lot quicker. So I'll start with saying I don't make content for a specific platform. I make a video I want to make. And if I think it's inappropriate for LinkedIn, I won't put it there, but I'll put it everywhere else. So I don't optimize for YouTube. I don't optimize for LinkedIn or TikTok. I think you should post at least once a week at the same time, whether it's Mondays at 5 a.m. or Wednesdays at 10 a.m. You kind of pick and just continue to do that consistently. My non-negotiables are brands can't own my content. I have to, align with the brand, and it has to be something that I do the creative that I really want to do. Of course, everybody has a price at some point where it's like, look, I will tell you your idea is shitty and it's not going to perform. But if you're going to pay me a lot of money, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to make fun of it too in the comments. Like I'm just going to, and they're usually fine with that if we go there. But most brands that come to me, they're not going to force me to do something that sounds like an ad.
I really, really like this. I also made my, it's not for the sponsorships things, but I really like to have some hard boundaries, because if you start to make concessions, and marketers make a lot of, like, they always try to do the sales approach, like, hey, but like, if we're doing this, can we also do this?
Right.
Like, oh, you're not getting control over the content, but like, hey, can we change this particular line?
Yeah. Well, so that's the other thing is like, we have to get script approval before I shoot anything. If the script is locked, then I will shoot. I'm not going to go back and reshoot for you, because I have to rent an office downtown and I have to set a bunch of shit up and editing and all this stuff. And if I have to go back and do it again, that's just a waste of all of our time. So you have to lock the script. And I'll add some other improv stuff. I'll add some other lines. And if there's other things you want me to just record just to have, like, I'll do it, but it has to be done during the scripting phase.
So I do think as well that quality matters more now than quantity. Like, I think back in the days, the quantity approach as well, like, like posting like daily just to keep staying in the minds of people and so forth, was somewhat relevant when you were talking about search engine optimization, like, and flooding the net with content so like everybody can find you somewhere.
Yeah.
But I actually do think this has changed now. I personally wouldn't know how to start now from zero again in that regard. But I do think that if you do have an established brand, I'm also right now betting much more on the horse of try to post once a week something really good, like really, 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 really good, rather than like 7 episodes that are just sucking the life out of you just because you feel like you have to post once a day.
Yeah, I mean, I think volume still will work on the hyper interest-based algorithm platforms like Instagram or TikTok. Like, it sucks because the algorithms decide whether people will like it or not, and it tries to take it to people who it thinks will like it that aren't necessarily your followers. So if you're just putting out a volume of content, the cost isn't what it used to be, where it was all your followers, if they sign in, see your content. Like, why are they putting out all of this shitty content? Like, whoa, chill out. Like, now a lot of people just won't see that content because the algorithm doesn't think it's good for them. And so the cost is a lot less. On LinkedIn, I totally agree. Like, you flood the network with shitty content on LinkedIn and people will abandon you very quickly. But if you go down the volume-based kind of method, you're going to have low engagement metrics from the start. Like, you're not going to build kind of the ultra loyal, ultra engaged audience. You're just not, because you just look like a content machine. Again, you can grow followers. It can look like you're super important and got all this stuff, but then you go look and person's posted 20,000 times and they've only got, 100,000 followers as a result of that. You're like, well, those are not performing posts. Like, you're not gathering influence. You're not gathering people who care over time.
It's interesting because I feel like sometimes there's this moment where you start to get like super fans, and I'm not talking super fans that are unreflected or whatever, but like these are just like people that follow around and they really, really, really care about what you do. And that's already starts quite early, by the way. I have some people who came up with me sort of.
Right, same.
At the same time.
I love them. Shout out to them.
They're still there.
Yeah, love them.
That's fucking amazing. That's really, really cool. And the thing that surprised me the most about this is that I think the pieces, when I asked them, so like, hey, what was the thing, like where you were like, hey, this was really helpful, like, or that was the thing that really hooked you. It was not, in my case, at least, it was not a meme or everything, like, or like something really fucking dry, like your article on how you create a product organization. And I'm like, I've never imagined that this would even get somewhere. So that's weird, like.
Right. It's not always the mass appeal ones, not the viral ones necessarily. It's the one that hit the right person in the right way. And it may not have been the most successful post by metrics.
Yeah, I think I had a conversation with Casey Hill on this, where he separates all the content that you have in like the super top of funnel, like that you can understand if you don't know someone.
Right.
Or like you're also like industry agnostic, that something like this, right? But then you also like have the bottom one, or like the bottom of the funnel stuff that can be really complex, where you can still reach quite a lot of people because they're also sharing it to these ICPs. Were there any topics that you started to kind of reframe in your mind in terms of their importance just because of how much engagement you got from them and you did not expect it? Or was there stuff where you were like, oh, this shit is funny, this is it, and then it just bombed completely?
I mean, I've had that across the board. I mean, I think, again, it goes in the old days, if pre-machine learning and pre-algorithms, when people chose to follow you and if they signed in and they would see your stuff, that's back when I could really make whatever I wanted. And like, I knew kind of my take on it was, if it was funny, it was funny. If it was funny, people would like it and they would see it. So they would watch it because they're like, oh, he does the funny stuff. Nowadays, when you do something that is highly produced and you're like, this is the one, it could completely bomb because the algorithm decided it was bad. And then you could do a lip sync over a Taylor Swift song that gets 100 million views. And you're like, well, why do I try to make something witty and smart and thoughtful and layered and nuanced when I could just be like, when you're tired at work, be like, oh my God, it's funny because he's asleep at work. Like, oh, like it's so on the nose and so not clever. It's so fucking stupid. But that plays nowadays because we got the crocodile brains and we're all swiping super fast. So that's the battle. I think if I was getting started today, I would pick different content pillars. My educational one, maybe you're in products. And so I do a product review or something. Then I do my funny making fun of product folks. Like I would pick three. It's the informational, I guess, educational, or my opinion rather, and then my comedy. And you don't have to do those three, but like I would figure out what are the content pillars that I can make, and then take topics and say, what's a version of each of these across? And I would start to make it in that way. And not everybody can do comedy and not everybody wants to do opinions and whatever. Some version of that is what I would do.
I think I tested this once where I was like, so first of all, I agree with everything that you said, but there's also like a danger in this, in the sense that when you only look at the impressions that you're generating from something, you might chase the wrong signals. I've definitely fallen prey to this. There is a very specific video of me that I never name in my podcast because then people are starting to look it up and then they falsify the numbers. But like, there's a very specific video of me that has like 300 to 400 views. And I do know that this is one of the rare videos that when people were watching it at the moment where we recorded it, I got 2 mandates out of this. 2 mandates from 400 views, just like views. And I know this because these were not people that knew me from before. They also clearly, like, they were also attending this webinar and so forth. And 500 views is nothing nowadays. This is like, even for a post that bombs for me, like it doesn't do anything. But I know that particular thing. And then I had also a post that was reaching, I think, like 1.5 million on LinkedIn, or was it 150,000? Like, I don't remember. Like, I'm not good with numbers. Like, just a very high number, like for a LinkedIn post.
Yep.
Not a single person, not a single one, not only did not convert into my funnel, but I also had UTM tracking links on a link that I was posting in there. Not a single one followed through like this top level because it was a meme and it was career focused.
Right.
And this is the weird thing, and I'm not sure whether you have opinions on this in terms of like attribution. I'm not saying like that each piece is just like should convert straight away. Every one of those has a different kind of purpose of it. But I think that right now we're focusing so fucking hard with the LinkedIn bros on like how to optimize for the views.
Yep.
That you sometimes forget that, hey, 50 likes on this particular post can be huge, especially in B2B sales, right?
Well, what you're saying is that post, and I agree with you completely, is it's not influence building, regardless of how many people saw it. Like I have those posts too, where so it's similar. It's like, okay, if I'm going to do this meme video, I know it's going to blow up. It's going to get millions of views. I'm not going to get many followers from it, but I need to have that volume because everyone's like, oh, how many views did you get in the last month? Like all that, and okay, that boosts that, but didn't really convert to fans, so to speak. And you'll post something that's 400 views that converts to a couple fans, and that's worth more to you. And I think if in a perfect world, you do both, right? Like you give the people what they want, you do things that you want for yourself, and then you do things for like the fans that care about you, that actually care about you. Right.
But like this is the difficult part about this industry, right? Like we care so much about the followers and the impressions and so forth. I think like a lot of marketing departments have not evolved out of this. So for instance, like if I'm starting to advertise my podcast,
Yeah.
I'm losing out against Lenny hard. Like he has so many more listens, of course. Like everybody has let's listen. Maybe Joe Rogan. No,
Yes.
he's not doing that well, by the way. But anyways, so like, I don't have volume that's other people have, but I'm trying to always make the case like, look, I have a hyper targeted audience because what I'm talking about is always for a very specific ICP.
Right.
The junior product manager is just not listening to this.
Right.
Gary from sales maybe and so forth. But like, it's very hard to kind of sell this if all they care about is the impressions.
Podcasts in particular are really hard with that. And I found that even with the podcast I do with Natalie, like people who buy podcast media, they're just like, what's your CPM? And we're like, well, that's not the people who are listening. Like we've got business professionals who spend money. Podcasts in particular is very far behind on critically thinking about what an audience's value could be.
And the thing is, man, if you're listening to a 50-minute episode from start to finish, that is a huge engagement, right?
Right.
That is huge. I don't know. I think it's a big deal that I have videos on YouTube that have 20,000 views where people, I don't know actually how they count it on YouTube specifically. Like what is an actual view on YouTube? I actually have to read up on this, but like on a very dry topic, right? So like it always also depends on like, what are the topics? Because it's not like, oh, how to become successful in your career. No, it was about how is B2B demand gen forming up right now in 2025 because of AI? These are very niche topics, I think, for this particular thing. So like turning this around, like what is for you? Like, do you have any metrics or stuff that you control with where you would say like, hey, look, this is now a successful thing? Like how professional do you get about this? Do you have reviews? Do you have QBRs with your team?
Yeah. I mean, my team is just me and my wife, and she similarly like runs the ops. Like she ran a school for a long time. So she was a principal of a school, 60 teachers, 600 students. And so she's all the spreadsheets, all the tracking, a lot of the negotiating, a lot of the brand conversations. I'm the creative who just like has no idea what I'm doing. This board behind me, she bought because I needed a place where my to-do list was. So I would get shit done every day. And like she writes them on in the morning and I do them. So we actually do operations. We do QBRs. We have like our quarterly reviews. We do our month-end reviews. We've got spreadsheets on spreadsheets of, we track all the videos, like which ones had high comments, which ones had high likes, which ones hit a viral threshold, and we rate them on a 1 to 10, basically on how they performed. So we can go back and re-reference those and be like, okay, why did that work? Where can we find patterns in what's working? But again, things evolve and things change. And sometimes I just want to make a funny video that I think is funny. And I don't give a shit if anybody else thinks it's funny and it's immature and it's dumb and it's poo-poo pee-pee, but I think that's funny. So I'm going to make it. But then again, of course, you got to play the game sometimes. So that's the constant battle. But yes, it's very operationalized. It's very like systematic, not the ideas themselves, but kind of when we go back and look at types of things that were working or weren't working, we do kind of track that.
It's quite funny because I also have a whiteboard just like behind my screen with to-dos because
I just won't get it done. I'm all over the place. I'm working on writing a script for SAD season 2. And then it's like, oh, I had this other idea. Oh, I should go write like this out. Oh, I'm going to browse LinkedIn for a while. And I'm just like, got 4 screens here and I'm just doing different shit all the time. And I just kind of bounce between them all.
Yeah, I can relate.
Not that focused.
No, but that's okay. I mean, that's how creative people are, I guess. Okay.
The ADD is strong.
No. Oh, shit. Ross, we're the same person in different countries.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel that.
This is not good. Okay. So let me just ask you like a little bit of a closing question on this stuff. I think, let's say we agree roughly on like this AI change and how demand generation works and so forth. Like,
yeah.
Do you actually give advice to B2B companies, or like, it's a bit of a broad question, but like, what is your advice right now? Like if someone asks like, hey, like you're a cool guy and all that, like, but we would like to understand better, like how did you generate demand, like from the ground up, right? So like, because you have a working inbound motion and so forth, and everybody with half brain can also see that this kind of works. How would you advise someone in 2025 to kind of get started? And I don't mean necessarily like an influencer, like, oh, I want to become a big influencer, but like more like thinking about this more like as a business motion.
Yeah. I mean, you have to exist. Like most people are just sitting there like, what should I do? When should I do it? And I think it's so lame, but taking action already puts you ahead of 95% of people. And that's so lame. Everyone's been thinking about this for years. Like, fucking do it. Like, who gives a shit if it's perfect or not? And I think, we talk about doing high quality stuff. And I think overanalyzing and going down what is high quality can be a problem, especially early on. Like everything is an experiment early on. All the content you want to do. Like if you think you should make it, you should make it. If you want to make it, you should also make it. Like period. And then you think about all the doubts and it's like, well, maybe they don't want, no. Always go off your gut, always go off your first instinct on whether or not you should make something. I struggle with that, especially with comedy. It's like, oh, this isn't actually funny. No, it was funny. The first time we thought of it, we were laughing. That was funny. We laughed. Remember, not everybody else is going to see this for the 400th time like we have because we're working on it. Go make it. And so I think I would build a plan. Again, I would pick your content pillars and I would go post something every week and reassess every couple months and see what things are doing well, what things aren't doing well, and know that the metrics do not matter early on. They just simply don't matter. Like you need to do a volume over time and pick a point of view. Like you don't need to go be Barstool Sports and just be a dick for the sake of being a dick. You can tell when people are like, what do they call rage baiting just for no reason. You're like, this is so fucking stupid.
It is.
You know, and then there's the hustle culture stuff. It's like, here's the problem that a lot of people think about. Kids growing up, they want to be influencers. And I'm like, well, what do you want to influence on? Well, I don't know. Well, why don't you pick something that you're interested in being a content creator about? And if you do it well and care a lot about it and do it for long enough, you become the influencer. Like work the other way instead of like, how do we become influencers? It's like, what are you passionate about? What do you want to make? And so I know that's hard and I know that's very nebulous and I wish I could be like, oh, 3 times a week and you know, then you'll hit this many things and then like all these thresholds will happen. That's the beauty of the creative world is there isn't a step-by-step path. Hit your sales numbers, get promoted. Hit your sales numbers, get promoted. Like it is all controlled chaos as much as you can and just play, just like fuck around. That's what it is. But most people won't even get to the fuck around phase because then you get to find out.
Yeah, if you fuck around, you get to find out. You know, it's interesting to me. Like, you'll probably also have a lot of people who ask you, like, "Hey, Ross, you know, like, hey, what would you give me as an advice?" I mean, just like I did, you know, like, but like, "Hey, how could I do what you do?" You know, like, not as big, but like, you know, a little bit like this. And I had a moment like this where I was explaining this unironically to dozens of people in terms of, you know, the tactics, right? So like, hey, look, here's how often I post. Like, here's how LinkedIn algorithm works and so forth. So I went rats deep, like, you know, like how LinkedIn algorithms work.
Yep.
And you know what I found? It doesn't work. It doesn't work if you explain it to people because the number one thing that you also said, or like the two things are people feel extremely conscious about getting judged by what they say is going to get to the wrong eyes. And then, you know, the imposter syndrome is coming. I also had to deal with this as well. But I think I always clicked send faster than I was thinking about it. That's the ADHD brain again. Yeah. And it goes a little bit to this consistency thing that you also said. I want to be absolutely unequivocally clear. As fun as this job is with creating content, it is fucking hard too. And the times where you get up in the morning and you're not feeling well, or you're just not that inspired and so forth, you have to feed the beast to some degree. I'm not sure whether you agree with this one, but I think this is exactly why you want to pick something that you're passionate about, because if you're not passionate about it, you cannot make yourself do it on a bad day. And I think how you play your bad hands is kind of like what matters, because everybody else can then copy you as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think it's like going to the gym when you feel like shit. You need to go. You're actually going to feel better after having gone and done it. I think exactly what you said. People don't realize how much of a grind this is. Like the content that goes out, that's just the result of the grind. Like that's the thing that goes out. And again, you're vulnerable because you put yourself out there in front of a bunch of strangers who have opinions and are going to be quick to judge you. But like, what's the term about actually being in the arena? Like, be in the arena. Like, you can watch from the stands. Everybody else is in the stands. Like, there's something to be said for someone who's actually in the arena. And there are the late nights where you're writing. There are the days where you don't want to post something and you post, or you know your post isn't that good, but you're going to put it out there anyway because our quote amongst me and my friends is like, well, it's content. It's like, I don't want to post it if it's content. Like, but sometimes you got to. Sometimes that's just how it goes. Like you post a C+ post and maybe it surprises you or it does exactly what you thought it would do. And it's like, well, nobody else in the world gives a shit about you as much as you do. They've all moved on. They watch you like, not his best, move on. What am I gonna have for lunch? Like nobody cares.
It hurts a lot if you prepare something for 6 hours and then there's just nothing happening.
But that's the game. That's how it goes. You work for months on a product launch and it doesn't go well.
Yeah. You know, in some way, this is like cold calling, right? Like you have to keep making calls until some of them work. Unfortunately, you don't know which ones work until you actually make 100 phone calls. It's just what it is. And I feel like this entire content game is a little bit of the same.
It is. It's a volume, it's a consistency, it's learning, but it's literally just doing it. You got to just do it if you want to do it. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
Okay. And then you also need to be funny and you need to know how to speak English.
You need to be funny and smart and native English speaker and white man. And it's It's all
Hey, what's going on there? Okay. Like, I think what also helps is like, if you're a woman, that you have some existential dread, because I can also play a little bit into this, right? So like the world is ending and so forth. Everybody takes away our rights. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's dark. Like, I think, obviously I'm joking in what I said, but I think obviously most of my content comes out of pain. It comes out of like truth in pain. Like comedy is tragedy. That's what they say. So
It's true.
Find your pain. I have lots of it.
Yeah, find lots of it.
Yeah.
I think you kind of make fun of this industry if there's not a simple truth behind it, right? So like I have cried a lot in corporate, like with literal tears, and I've been beaten down. So I know where my stuff is coming from. And it's a mixture between anger and humor.
Well, I mean, and like still, you are doing a great job and you are aspirational to so many people, which is crazy. I mean, the imposter syndrome comes back to us. I'm like, what am I doing on stage? Why does anyone want to hear what I have to say? I'm a joke,
But isn't it interesting? It's like when I started to climb the career ladder a little bit, it was like the imposter syndrome never went away.
No, it doesn't.
It just got exchanged. Like the people that you were afraid of are just now one income bracket higher.
Well, right. Yeah. I mean, you always want what you don't have, no matter what. Like there is no making it to the top, I don't think. It's always you want something different, you want something more. And like that's the reality. And you're never totally satisfied. But if you really step back and look at it, it's like, you know what? You're in a good spot. It's okay. Things can be worse.
Yeah, well, okay. But anyways, in case I will reach the top, I'll let you know, Ross.
Let me know how it looks up there.
Yeah.
Throw a rope down and then I'll pull it up and then you let it go and I'll fall.
I think you're going to be there first. So it's going to be fine.
We'll see. I don't know.
Ross, are there any pieces of media that people should be consuming from you or should get in contact with you? Like, do you want people to contact you?
I'm in sales. I can't read. So not a lot of books. I haven't written a book. That is on my list of things I want to do. I mean, if you want to follow the content, you can find me on LinkedIn. If you want to see all the videos that don't get released on LinkedIn, Instagram's the biggest one, TikTok, anywhere there's social media, you can find me. It's Corporate Bro or Ross Pomerantz. LinkedIn's the only one where I have two separate pages.
No, please Google Corporate Bro because Pomerantz is really hard to kind of write. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's a dig on your parents.
Yeah, I don't know why they would do that to me. I could have been Smith or something, but it's, I'd probably be a different person.
Ross Smith.
Ross Johnson, Ross Smith, something. I don't know. I don't know if my life would have turned out the same. So, I'll keep Pomerantz around. But yeah, Corporate Bro is probably the easiest way to find me.
Okay, Corporate Bro, Ross Johnson. I appreciate you coming here today. I really appreciate you, and I hope it's not the last time.
Yeah, I'm sure it won't be. Thank you, Leah, for having me. And it's a blast.
And that's the end of this fucking episode. Boom! Thank you so much for listening to The Product Tea with Leah. If you don't have enough yet, you can subscribe to my podcast right now on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or you can head to my website, leahtarin.com, which is leahtarin.com, where you can find much more of my material or just want to work with me.